Hello lovelies, my name is Serafina, and thank you for joining me for another Frightening Friday video here on Questrified. Today we'll be covering the case of the Son of Sam, so let's get right into it so we can discuss it in the comments. Richard David Falco was born on June 1st, 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. His mother Betty was raised Jewish, so Richard was Jewish at birth. Richard was a product of an affair that Betty had with a married real estate agent. He insisted that Betty put the baby up for adoption. This was after Betty's husband, Tony Falco, had left her for another woman. She chose her lover over her son and named Tony Falco as the father, gave the baby his last name, and placed her son up for adoption. Pearl and Nathan Berkowitz adopted the baby boy. They were quite happy with their new son. They named him David Richard Berkowitz. He would be their only child. The boy seemed to be tormented from a young age. David suffered from seizures in which he described that he felt as if something was trying to get inside him. David acted out a lot during his youth. Disrupting class, getting into fights, and nearly getting expelled were all things attributed to him. Weekly trips to a psychologist did not help much. David's parents stepped back and gave David freedom for self-expression. This was a mistake. David needed guidance, not freedom. David was dealing with demons literally in his own mind. David believed that an evil force would sometimes take him over, and at night he would sneak out and roam the neighborhood. He was a bit withdrawn and would go days without uttering a single word to his parents. He would choose to stay in his room and talk to himself. Even with all the love that Nathan and Pearl had for David, it wasn't enough to reach him. He became suicidal. Things would only get worse for David when his mother Pearl died of cancer when he was only 14. This loss was compounded when his father Nathan remarried. His new stepmother was not so tolerant of David's behavior as his mother had been. The loss of his mother spiraled David into a deep depression, and he felt much more intense. After graduation, David joined the United States Army. He made it through his 3-year enlistment without any issues. After leaving the Army, David went looking for his birth mother, Betty Falco. Betty gave David the truth about his birth and adoption. She informed him that his biological father was dead. The fact that David was considered to be born out of lust and that his real father was dead caused him to become estranged from his birth mother. But he did remain on good terms with his half-sister, who he had never known about until finding Betty. Her name was Rosalind. After the Army, David realized that all those he hung around were moving on, getting married, having children, and he was alone, living in New York City. In 1975, David met some men at a party who were heavily into the occult. He had always been interested in the occult, as well as witchcraft and Satanism. Growing up, David watched many horror movies, including Rosemary's Baby, which he said spoke to him. At age 22, David thought he was seeing signs everywhere that were leading him to Satan. It was Christmas Eve in 1975 that David embraced the darkness and slipped into violence as he went with knife in hand and attacked. He stabbed a teenager, Michelle Foreman, along with her friend. David was unhappy with the results that the knife had given him. He purchased a gun, a .44 Special. Both girls survived David's first attempt at murder. Both girls had long brown hair. His biological mother had long brown hair. On July 29, 1976, the song "Oh What a Night" by the Four Seasons was climbing the charts, and 18-year-old Jody Valenti was driving her Oldsmobile, bringing herself and her friend, 18-year-old Donna Loria, home from a disco. Jody had double-parked the car, and the two girls sat in it talking. A man approached the vehicle and fired 3 bullets at the girls. Donna was killed instantly with a shot to her head. Jody was shot in the thigh and survived. The killer had left a witness. That witness, Jody Valenti, was able to describe the shooter as a white man in his 30s, standing about 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighing about 200 pounds. His hair was short, dark, and curly. At this point, no one knew but the .44 caliber killer, or how he would be more famously known as the Son of Sam, had unleashed a terror that would last over a year, and no one was safe. Police were able to identify the murder weapon based on the bullets that were removed from both women. On October 23, 1976, Carl Denaro and Rosemary Keenan were sitting in Rosemary's car when gunshots rang out. Rosemary started the car and sped away. Her only injuries were from broken window shards. Rosemary drove a little faster after she noticed that Carl had been shot in the head. Fortunately, Carl would survive. The bullets were too damaged in order to link them to a specific gun. It was hard at first to connect the murders based on the very randomness of the crimes. Carl could have been mistaken for a female, as he was sporting shoulder-length hair. It was months since the first attack, and police would not realize that they had a serial killer on their hands who was stalking middle-class neighborhoods of northeast Bronx and eastern Queens in the search of human prey. On November 27, 1976, no one picked up on any pattern when Donna DeMasi and Joanne Lamino were shot. The teenage girls were walking back from a movie in Belrose, Queens, a little after midnight. They were sitting on Joanne's front porch when a man dressed in fatigues approached them. As he asked them for directions, he pulled out a gun and shot each of them once. He fired several more shots as he ran away, missing them. The bullet only grazed Donna's neck. Joanne was more severely injured and rushed to the hospital. She would survive, but she would never walk again. A neighbor heard the shots and came running. The neighbor described the man as blond and holding the gun in his left hand. A sketch was produced, but no link could be made as the bullets were badly deformed. On January 30th, 1977, Christine Freehan, 26, and John Dial, 30, had just seen the movie Rocky and were sitting inside John's car a little after midnight. 3 shots were fired into the car, causing him to speed away. John only had minor injuries, but Christine had been hit twice, and she died at the hospital about 3 hours after being shot. After this shooting, the first letter appeared. It was addressed to New York Police Captain Joseph Borelli. It was discovered by police officers searching the area. It read, "I am deeply hurt by your calling me a woman hater. I am not, but I am a monster. I am the son of Sam. I am a little brat. When Father Sam gets drunk, he gets mean. He beats his family. Sometimes he ties me up to the back of the house. Other times he locks me in the garage. Sam loves to drink blood. Go out and kill," commands Father Sam. "Behind our house some rest, mostly young, raped and slaughtered, their blood drained, just bones now. Papa Sam keeps me locked in the attic, too. I can't get out, but I look out the attic window and watch the world go by. I feel like an outsider. I am on a different wavelength than everybody else, programmed to kill. However, to stop me, you must kill me. Attention all police, shoot me first. Shoot to kill or else. Keep out of my way or you will die. Papa Sam is old now. He needs some blood to preserve his youth. He has had too many heart attacks. Too many heart attacks. Ugh me, oot it hurts, sonny boy. I miss my pretty princess, most of all. She's resting in Our Lady's house, but I'll see her soon. I am the monster Beelzebub, the chubby behemoth. I love to hunt, prowling the streets looking for fair game, tasty meat. The women of Queens are the prettiest of all. I must be the water they drank. I live for the hunt. My life. Blood for Papa. Mr. Borelli, sir, I don't want to kill any more. No, sir, no more. But I must honor thy father. I want to make love to the world. I love people. I don't belong on earth. Return me to Yahoos. To the people of Queens, I love you and want to wish all of you a happy Easter. May God bless you in this life and in the next. And for now I say goodbye and good night. Police, let me haunt you with these words. I'll be back. I'll be back. To be interpreted as bang, 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 bank, bang, ugh. Yours in murder, Mr. Monster. Now that the murders had become well known, the next victim, Virginia Voskeriken, was shot in the early evening of March 8, 1977, as she walked from class at Columbia University. She saw the man approach her with gun in hand. She put her books up to her face to try to shield herself from the attack. The .44 caliber bullet went right through the books and killed Virginia instantly. She had been the only victim to be targeted while alone. 2 days later, it was announced that there was a connection between the recent shootings and that a task force had been implemented. It was stated that the shootings were the work of a single man described as white, 25 to 30 years old, 5 feet 10 to 6 feet tall, with mod-style dark hair. He was clean-shaven, clear-skinned, pale-complected, right-handed, and addicted to shooting in combat style. This announcement could not save the next victims. Alexander Esau and Valentina Siriani were sitting in Valentina's car at about 3 in the morning on April 17, 1977. They were each shot twice. Both were killed. Valentina died at the scene and Alexander died in the hospital. The weapon had been deemed as the same in all the other shootings. The nation was now aware of what was happening in New York. This put more pressure on the police department. They started using decoy couples in parked cars and tracing buyers of .44 caliber ammunition. The letter found was being analyzed. On May 30, 1977, Jimmy Breslin, a columnist with the Daily News, received a note posted from Englewood, New Jersey. It read, "Hello from the gutters of NYC, which are filled with dog manure, vomit, stale wine, urine, and blood. Hello from the sewers of NYC, which swallow up these delicacies when they are washed away by the sweeper truck. Hello from the cracks in the sidewalks of NYC NYC, and from the ants that dwell in these cracks and feed on the dry blood of the dead that has settled into the cracks. JB, I'm just dropping you a line to let you know that I appreciate your interest in those recent and horrendous 44 killings. I also want to tell you that I read your column daily and I find it quite informative. Tell me, Jim, what will you have for July 29th? You can forget about me if you like, because I don't care for publicity. However, you must not forget Donna Lauria, and you cannot let the people forget her either. She was a very, very sweet girl, but Sam's a thirsty lad and won't let me stop killing until he gets his fill of blood. Mr. Breslin, sir, don't think that because you haven't heard from me for a while that I went to sleep. No, rather I'm still here, like a spirit roaming the night, thirsty, hungry, seldom stopping to rest, anxious to please Sam. I love my work. Now the void has been filled. Perhaps we shall meet face to face some day, or perhaps I will be blown away by the cops with smoking 38s. Whatever. If I shall be fortunate enough to meet you, I will tell you all about Sam if you like, and I will introduce you to him. His name is Sam the Terrible. Not knowing what the future holds, I shall say farewell, and I will see you at the next job. Or should I say, you will see my handiwork at the next job. Remember Miss Lauria. Thank you. In their blood and from the gutter, Sam's creation. 44. Here are some names to help you along. Forward them to the inspector for use by the NCIC. The Duke of Death, the Wicked, King Wicker, the 22 Disciples of Hell, John Wheaties, rapist and suffocator of young girls. P.S. Please inform all the detectives working the slayings to remain. P.S. J.B. Please inform all the detectives working the case that I wish them the best of luck. Keep 'em digging. Drive on. Think positive. Get off your butts. Knock on coffins, etc. Upon my capture, I promise to buy all the guys working the case a new pair of shoes, if I can get up the money. Son of Sam. Breslin immediately called the police and turned the letter over to them. The letter sounded different than the first, and the police believed that they were from two different people. The letter was published, and the city was gripped with fear. Judy Placido, 17, and Salvatore Lupo, 20, sat in a car owned by a bouncer who was to drive them home. At 3:20 a.m., bullets smashed through the closed front window of the parked car. Judy was wounded in the right temple, right shoulder, and the back of the neck, but survived. Sal escaped with a wound on the right forearm. The bullets were matched to the same .44 caliber revolver that was used in the other shootings. On July 29, 1977, the city was bracing for an event as it was the anniversary of the first Son of Sam slaying. But the first attempt was foiled when the shooter pulled up next to Thomas Scally and his date. When the window was rolled down, Thomas pointed an air rifle, causing the killer to drive away. Scally got a good look at him and gave chase. The killer slammed on the brakes and fled from the car. Thomas did not want to leave his date alone, so he did not chase him on foot. He called the incident into the task force. He struck in Brooklyn neck. Stacy Moskowitz and Robert Violante, both 20, were on their first date. They were walking hand in hand when they were both shot through the head. Robert would survive and be blinded. Stacy, the first blonde victim, would die from her injuries. This attack had more witnesses, and a woman saw a man running to a light-colored car and wrote down the license plate. She reported it to the police. Another witness had seen him hanging around and pulling a parking ticket off his car. She called the police as well. These reports led the police to David Berkowitz. They waited outside for him and then arrested him as he attempted to get into his car. His response to the police as they arrested him was, "What took you so long?" Or so it had been rumored. Facing 6 counts of murder, Berkowitz tried an insanity plea but was found to be fit to stand trial. He showed no remorse and taunted Stacy Moskowitz's family by repeating over and over again, Stacy was a whore. He would tease a guilty plea, but once he was able to contact the press, he would claim demon possession. He stated that he heard voices that commanded him to go out and kill. He said that it was his neighbor's dog that was the one who was giving him these orders. Berkowitz did plead guilty and was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences and remains in prison to this day. In later years, there were individuals who believed that Berkowitz could not have acted alone. Berkowitz himself stated that he had joined a satanic cult in 1975 and that there were several sons of Sam out there and they were his accomplices. In the 1990s, a new investigation was launched, but the police found nothing to support the multiple accomplice theory. Yet people who covered this case still believed in the satanic cult and multiple shooters theory. There is a docuseries on Netflix called Sons of Sam, A Descent into Madness, that goes over the supposed evidence of this conspiracy. I, for one, do not believe this theory. I believe that David Berkowitz acted alone. He was an introverted loner who did not get on with many people that much. I believe that he was was out there killing his biological mother over and over again. I think he used the satanic cult theory to try to alleviate his sentence or even to deny the truth to himself. Another fact that these who believe this alternative explanation to these crimes is that Berkowitz had been described so differently from shooting to shooting by eyewitnesses. One of the most unreliable things to come out of the commission of a crime are eyewitness accounts. There is much going on at the time, and one does not always remember what they see, or their brain processes information differently when in a state of shock or terror. Each individual sees things differently. If two people are to describe the same person, it is amazing how drastically different it can be. There are also many factors that can lead a witness to state something other than what they saw. Many have an innate desire to please those who they are talking to, and therefore are led into creating a story that they think those interviewing or talking to them want to hear. Misidentification of suspects is more common than most know. This is why someone pointing the finger at a person just isn't enough in a court of law. David Berkowitz had something wrong with him from the time he was born. The adoption and the rejection from his biological mother was enough to make him turn violent. He had a type, and I believe in his mind all the female victims represented his mother, who would not allow him into her life. In addition to this, I think he just enjoyed killing. In the end, some people may have a hard time believing that some are just born bad. They believe that as long as good parents come in and raise a child, then all is well. Sometimes nurture does not always supersede nature. There are times that who we are at our core surfaces, and who that is may love a life of darkness and violence. Sometimes people are just born bad. They can hide it, ignore it, or push it down, but it's always there, waiting, hungry. Thank you for joining me for this Frightening Friday video. Please take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!